Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to be talking about the break-even point and what that is. The term break-even point is a crucial concept in business and finance. It refers to a level of sales or revenue at which company total cost, fixed cost, and variable costs are equal to its total revenue, resulting in neither profit or loss. In other words, it is a point at which company covers all its expenses and starts making profit beyond that point. Uh, Basically, most of the companies, to those who perhaps successful companies, at least they should think about growing the company. So they might operate at the loss or break-even point for many years. Many companies, many successful companies, most of the time are they operating at either break-even point or at the loss. I don't know if I can mention some of the companies for 20 years, 25 years, or massive companies, large companies, international companies. They just now, after 25, 30 years, would start generating some profit because they constantly fixed at growing and expanding and expanding and expanding. Once they develop the business model that works, they focus entirely of investing any money that comes in back into the company and grow all the time. Uh, Here are some of the key components involved in understanding the break-even point. Fixed costs, these are costs that do not change with level of production or sales. Examples include rent, salaries, insurance, and equipment depreciation. Fixed costs remain constant regardless of how much company produces or sells. Variable costs, there are the costs that vary depending on the level of production or sales. Examples include raw materials, something that can be called input cost, labor directly tied to production, and sales commissions. As production or sales increase, variable cost increases proportionally. There are different formulas where you can calculate break-even point. Uh, but if anything, I believe it should be a strategy and the way how most of the companies should operate. Uh, Break-even point is a critical metric for business because it helps them understand the minimum level of sales they need to cover their costs. Beyond the break-even point, each additional sale contributes to profit. Below break-even point, the business is operating at loss. Businesses often use break-even analysts to make pricing decisions, set sales targets, and evaluate the potential profitability of new products or services. It's a valuable tool for financial planning and decision making. I When I have a minute every day, I'm trying to read some of the books where they're discussing some of the details of massive companies and how they operate and how accurate they know all the production costs and how they're negotiating any contractual agreements, large shipments, and how we can reduce some of the costs of how much it would cost and how many of the business owners actually need to know their numbers and it's so many math and so many calculations that people need to know about expanding and running a company. That's the point that I was trying to make. Depending on the business and timing, many business might choose to operate at break-even point and focus on other areas. Some of those areas can be gathering larger customer base. They might try to achieve different strategies or goals. Some of those goals are market entry and growth. Startup companies or businesses entering a new market may choose to operate at the break-even point initially. This strategy can help them gain market share quickly by offering competitive prices and attracting customers. While they may not be profitable in the short term, the focus is on building customer base and market presence in the beginning. For example, some of the coffee companies, if they would decide to operate in Japan at the time, if they're just entering new markets, they might consider operate at break even and build customer base before perhaps making different strategical decisions. Price leadership. Some businesses aim to become price leaders in the industry. They operate at or near the break-even point to offer lower prices than competitors, which can lead to increased sales and market dominance. Price leaders typically rely on high sales volumes to offset low profit margins. Cost recovery in industries where costs can fluctuate significantly, business might aim to operate at the break-even point to recover their costs during certain periods. For example, seasonal business may aim to break even during off-season and generate profits during peak seasons. Investor or stakeholder expectations. Sometimes business might have investors or stakeholders exceptions that prioritize market share or growth over short-term profitability. In such case, the company may operate at the break-even point to achieve their objectives. Again, depending on the business strategy, some of the business might choose to, instead of short-term goals, they might aim towards long-term goals and long-term strategies. Research and development. Companies heavily invested in research and development (R&D) may not generate immediate profit from the innovation. Products or services operate at the break-even point, allow them to contribute funding for research and development efforts while waiting for long-term returns. I would definitely recommend for any business overall 100% of revenue, perhaps allocate 5 or 10% to R&D, and perhaps development of new processes or procedures, how you can reduce some of the costs that you then slowly over time become your business would become more profitable. So some people might choose this kind of strategy. I see where those people might come from. If I need to give an example, it would be perhaps oil barrels and how they were moved by rail back in the day while they were developing pipelines. So instead of at the time, they were moving oil barrels by rail can cost a lot of money, even if they had to buy barrels themselves, right? Later that will just try to imagine how many barrels they would need to buy instead of perhaps building a pipeline. Just that perhaps research and development might come into play in this particular example. Sustainability and social responsibility. Businesses' commitment to sustainability and social responsibility may choose to operate at or near the break-even point to minimize environmental impact and support community initiatives. For those of you who would like to learn more, I would highly recommend in purchasing my book. That would be Game Strategy. In the book, I'm focusing a lot on strategy and ways how to think about business right from beginning. You should, for example, right from beginning when starting a business, you should think about exit strategy, how you're planning of exiting your business. That makes completely different approach while you're building that business and you're building a systems within the business that later can be sold. It's a big difference. A lot of people might find themselves over the years in a situation where they not necessarily would be able to exit the business. Just one way to think about business, and when you're starting, you should think about end in mind. Either way, I'm sharing a lot of examples in this book. I would highly recommend to everyone to purchase this book. You can go to the link in the description, as well as Top Retailers has this book. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next one. Thank you.